Pranam Chidanandji. Now you can start by unmuting. Please unmute. Okay, done.
Namaskar, good evening to everyone. Today we have a rather intriguing question before us. What is the effect the teachings have upon those who study the teachings? The teachings and their effect upon us is the topic we have chosen to deliberate upon. It's intriguing because it's not so easy to answer this question. Especially, any answer given could be misleading also. Let me explain. If someone says, oh, these teachings of J. Krishnamurti are so wonderful, they can change everybody, they can set them free, they can liberate them, they can do so much good to them, etc. There is a difficulty, for we are seeing one side of the story. The teachings, no doubt, are a wonderful, most excellent body of observations on life, comments or commentaries on living, as one of the book series is titled. And there is no doubt the teachings unravel a whole lot of hidden aspects of human psychology. They throw such precious light upon the ways of the self, or man's self-interest is exposed in great straightforwardness without mincing words. The power of the teachings is undeniably immense. However, today's topic is calling for our sort of assessment of the effect of those teachings on us. Once we come into the picture, the matter gets a bit complicated. The teachings by themselves, are not so complicated. Once we come into the picture, who are we? We are conditioned. We are so conditioned in countless ways that there is hardly anyone who can claim to be not conditioned. The teachings ask us to be aware of our conditionings, to be aware of the way our mind is working or the way we behave in an unbiased manner. We are supposed to be aware without any bias. But is that easy? I have a feeling that the vast majority of humanity, I'm referring to those who even study the teachings, have certain bias unknowingly. Once in a while, they do realize that their bias operates even when they are studying these teachings. In one of the videos, which one of my friends, namely Shakti Kumar, who probably has already joined here or will join in a little while, shared with me, Krishnaji himself laments on how there is hardly any effect of his teachings upon all those who were hearing him in those days, and by implication would be going through the teachings in days to come. Krishnaji himself expresses some amount of anger that the teachings are not having any effect upon people. I have heard, and probably I read also in some authentic document, that even a while before breathing his last, Krishnaji expressed much doubt about whether anybody had understood his teachings at all. He would not even call them his teachings, so we more often refer to them as the teachings. All right. But when Krishnaji himself wonders whether anybody had understood his or the teachings, there is again an interpretation over there. Krishnaji was of such nature. He had such a way of putting things where he did not want to give or lend some sense of authority to anybody over the teachings. So, if he had expressed the doubt whether anybody had understood the teachings at all, it could have been with a certain intelligent insight that to say so and so has understood, or such and such person in such and such place has understood the teachings, would cause a lot of undesirable and unintended consequences. Number one, people, the moment they hear that somebody's name was mentioned, somebody was pointed out to by Krishnaji himself as, yes, he or she has perhaps understood the teachings, large number of people would tend to make that person a guru, that person an authority, and paying no more attention to the teachings, they would then deify, they would make that lady or man some kind of special person. And Krishnaji would never want anybody to be thus put on a pedestal. So, probably to prevent that and to put it in a positive language, to keep that flame of inquiry on, he made that statement. I wonder whether anyone has understood these teachings at all. Therefore, on one hand, his expressing doubt may not be taken so literally. I personally tend to be on an optimistic side that around the world there must have been, and there are even now, a handful of people who have understood the teachings, not only understood, but have been living those teachings. Though it's extremely difficult to recognize or identify who that person could be. The difficulty, therefore, is with uh, assessing, with actually figuring out. As the teachings themselves say, we can only identify the faults. We cannot pinpoint this is the truth. We can rather pinpoint, hey, here there is something jarring, here there is something jerky, here there is something shaky, here there seems to be a foul smell. That's rather possible for us. And we do find that the teachings have been approached by a very large number of people, once more, I would say knowingly or unknowingly, with a certain self interest operating in them. Therefore, friends, I do not mean to criticize any person or any group of people. I would only speak in a rather sympathetic tone that we, the humanity, find it next to impossible to put aside our conditionings, our biases. I do sympathize not only with people who apparently are extremely fond of these teachings. I also sympathize with those who apparently are averse to these teachings. Let me explain or elaborate a bit on the second group. A large number of people in this world are averse to the teachings. They are not comfortable with these teachings. Why? They are waist deep, if not neck deep, in their attachment to their own tradition, their own religion, in fact, their own idea of the some so-called religion. The human mind is steeped in various notions of belonging. And the teachings, very many times, are like the red rag to a bull, to use an English idiom. A red rag to a bull can provoke and annoy and incite the bull, and the bull would then angrily run towards that red rag or the red cloth with certain anger. So, likewise, the moment the truths that are found in these teachings seem to be or come across as questioning the tradition, questioning certain belief, questioning certain symbolism, this large number of people become like the bull seeing the red cloth, and many of them just stop reading Krishnamurti's literature. Many of them do read, but they make their own compromises. For example, I know some people in very traditional circles who are regularly reading J. Krishnamurti also. Some of them even live in places like Tiruvannamalai, which is so full of devotion to Ramana Maharshi, Arunachala, Shiva, and so on. I would presume that there are similar people in different parts of the world who, on one hand, are wedded to Islam or Christianity or Buddhism or one of the isms. Wedded meaning quite loyal to those systems or schools of thought. On the other hand, and at the same time, they could be very devoted to these teachings also. So I sympathize with them. I sympathize with them because poor guys, they are unable to really let go of their attachment to certain school of philosophy. But I equally sympathize with a large number of people who apparently have said goodbye to tradition, to belief, to symbols, to mosques or Buddha vihars or temples or churches, who perhaps never step inside any of these so-called places of worship. But by keeping away from those places, they haven't really become religious. They have, out of certain reaction to maybe something that they noticed in the church or in the mosque, which was not to their taste, they have stopped going there. But by merely by merely not going to such places, um, there is no guarantee that they have come upon some greater depth, either of understanding religiosity. There is no guarantee that they have begun to live a truly religious life. They have their own adjustments, their own compromises. They make their own very nice, comfortable settings, if not with regard to God or some holy book or some guru, etc. They make convenient and comfortable adjustments with respect to various other kinds of embracing worldly comforts and so on. They, in their own way, might be party to some exploitation. In their own way, while they keep away from Bible or Quran, Gita or Dhammapada, they may do so, saying we are very rational. We believe in questioning everything. We, in fact, love Krishnamurti's teachings. And therefore, in the process, we do not subscribe easily to any belief, you see, etc. They might keep apart, keep away from the so-called religion, so-called schools of thought, but they may not keep away from certain ways of dominating over people around them, or sometimes, as the English expression goes, stooping to conquer. Sometimes they allow A or B to dominate over them, hoping to get certain benefits in due course of time. They become yes men or yes women. They actually make many compromises. And that is not what Krishnaji's teachings had ever said. In the only lecture which I had the opportunity to directly hear from Krishnaji, I think it was in 1982, January or so, in Madras, without knowing much about the teachings, without knowing much about the personality also, knowing a little bit, otherwise I would not have gone, knowing a little bit that he is amazing, he questions everything, and he throws precious light on life's conflicts. I joined a few friends of mine in 1982 January, and standing way behind in a large crowd on the grounds of Vasanta Vihar. At that time, I did not know that it was Vasanta Vihar, it was headquarters of KFI, etc. I had no idea of the organization called KFI. But people said, we are all going, are you coming? And I just accompanied and I heard, did not understand much. But later, I was able to identify the exact lecture which I had heard, and I am referring to that because in that lecture, with tremendous passion, Krishnaji emphasizes integrity, integrity, utter honesty, utter transparency, and doing what one believes, doing what one says, and saying exactly what one does, etc. These are my words, but he has in that talk defined or um, made us understand what integrity is and how so central integrity is to a religious life. But when there is compromise on the part of people, either in the so-called K camp or in the so-called non-K camp, there is, alas, not a problem with the teachings, but the so-called effect on us becomes very diluted. The effect on us is far from what should have been or could have been. All this is not to speak in a rather disappointing language. I am only trying to share with you my candid opinion on what the teachings have done to us or to anybody for that matter. The teachings are like a science. The teachings have most beautiful truths revealed, expressed in a language that also is so carefully worded. However, the conditionings in the human mind being what they are, there is rarely anybody, there is seldom anybody, so difficult to find really anywhere, someone who is going about the teachings with all integrity. But at this point, if you ask me, are you saying, are you making a should of it? We should approach the teachings with integrity. I would not bring any should or should not here because this whole idea of we should be like this or we should be like that, etc., again, is not permissible in the healthy approach to the teachings. I think the proper approach to the teachings is not with an idea of how we should be, but the proper approach is of certain vulnerability, certain openness, certain readiness to notice at the given moment. It is not about conceding or confessing or admitting to any compromise in anybody's life in the last 5 years or 10 years, 5 weeks or 5 months. It's not about the bygone past, nor is it about promising some upcoming future. It is so silly, it is so childish for any of us to say, I value these teachings so much, but sorry, right now I'm not able to follow them, but give me 5 years. That is very childish. Give me time, I will follow the teachings in due course of time. Smacks of improper understanding of the teachings. Therefore, it is neither regretting the past or being anxious about the future, but a proper approach could be with the teachings at a given moment of time and be aware of any defense that you might be coming out with. As you know very well, vulnerability is to put aside all defenses. If you and I are vulnerable, then we do not hastily or even slowly try to defend ourselves. There is some compromise in my life because you please understand. Suppose we talk like that, that is defense. Nobody is attacking you. Nobody is, asking you to defend. But in a discussion like we are having this evening or anywhere, in a dialogue, like friends getting together, there is a gentle appeal to each other and to oneself to just notice if there is a defense, if there is a defensiveness, if there is some kind of guard against, don't hurt me by any comment. Talk for yourself, speak for yourself. Don't say I am like this or I am like that. That's called using some guards. So it's just a gentle appeal to each other. Can we, for a while, put aside all guards and we don't have to, say loudly, I have this shortcoming or that bias or this prejudice. The expectation in a proper dialogue is if we are gently and silently acknowledging in our own mind, that should be more than enough. Are we acknowledging within ourselves? I don't have to say to 10 people standing before me, I told a lie a minute ago. But if I gently notice, I said a lie a minute ago. Oh, I did. I said a lie. There is a certain falsehood in me. In this way, if there is one certain awareness, that can go so long. It can go a long way. That can go a long way in you know in coming to a certain contact with the teachings. Therefore, without making this too long a talk, for I began saying this as an intriguing question. When I heard the short video shared by Shakti Kumar, for a moment I just was able to see, I just was able to appreciate some comments made by Krishnaji himself about why why are we not affected by the teachings or something like that was the title of that short video. The title given by editors later on. As you know, Krishnaji never took a title and began speaking on it. So why aren't we uh, affected by the teachings? We study the teachings, seemingly very interested, seemingly very keen to dive into the depths of those teachings, but then we don't know what goes wrong. We remain pretty much as before, as we were before. was the implication. So when I heard that video, when I watched that video, I was able to resonate with what Krishnaji says there. But let me tell you, this evening when I said, the topic this evening now is the teachings and their effect upon us, I just realized that I have no business to talk like Krishnaji spoke in that video. Krishnaji's views are, coming from a very different source. I must rather honestly share with you how I look at the teachings and their effect upon people who study the teachings. Therefore, my simple summary of all that I have shared with you is on the ground, that is what they call the ground reality is that humanity is caught in conditionings and very conveniently and in order to protect one's own self-interest, one uses anything and everything, any resource, any input, including these teachings, the human mind tends to use for its own convenience. First of all, I many times felt that a whole lot of people, do not even pick up the teachings out of genuine or true, search for quest. They might pick it up out of a certain reaction to something somewhere, and they walked away from there and came to these teachings. So we do not know how long they will remain sincere with these teachings either. That question arises. I'm nobody to, say people will quit or people will stay. But having said that, somebody staying with these teachings, so to say, for decades is no evidence that they deeply have changed. Somebody quitting within a year or two, oh, these teachings are not for me. I'm going back to my church. I'm going back to Hare Krishna. I'm going back to that particular some other sect or some tradition. That is no proof either that one is really against the teachings. Rajesh Dalal used to say that these teachings have a certain power of their own. Once they get into you, once they go under your skin, wherever you go, they won't leave you so easily. I believe in that. That is some beauty about Krishnamurti's teachings. Once they awaken certain questions inside you, oops, wherever you run into a Himalayan cave, the questions that Krishnamurti raised would bother you. Go into Kanyakumari, go anywhere. Rajesh ji was right that these teachings get into us and they strengthen certain questions. But then that is not the whole story. Even if the questions are made very powerful, very strong, very, very, uh, intruding into the deepest of your privacy, yet the sad news is your bias, your guards, your invulnerable walls are so strong that in spite of the power of the teachings, you somehow find ways to continue to do what you were doing before. That is the challenge. So let me end saying, I'm sorry if there was some note of, you know, uh, let's say there is a word, there's note of difference in viewpoint, etc. I didn't mean that way. All I wanted to say was how the conditionings are too powerful, and it would be a dreamy affair to say, oh, these teachings have such a tremendous effect on anyone who comes in touch with them. In no time, they get changed, etc. Hardly anyone changes. In that sense, what Krishnaji said in that video, lamenting upon how there is hardly any effect on people from the teachings is true. But from another angle of view, which also I labor to explain, Krishnaji talking like that, lamenting like that, might be also out of a certain outlook he has, that he never wants to create some rosy picture where people would take some false comfort. So to avoid people taking false comfort, he comes across as giving a rather negative picture. Nobody has understood. Nobody seems to care. You go on with your old ways, and so on. He whips us up, but that whipping up outwardly could be harsh, inwardly could be compassion. Therefore, in a lot of such incisive discussions or discussions that really go deep, it's rather difficult to really, you know, fix something as it is this or it is that. So all this is to provoke thinking. All this is to, make us take a second look at how we are treating the teachings, how we face the teachings, how we meet with the teachings. May we take a second look and perhaps the answer finally to the question connected with this evening's topic. Have the teachings changed us? Do the teachings have an effect on us? If that is the way we put the question, the answer perhaps is to be got not through some lecture by X or Y, but through a very quiet introspection, quiet self examination. In a certain silence, you and I may discover whether we have changed at all, even by a wee bit, or we have only been talking or enjoying the pleasure of some nice, well-made statements, etc. So let us go for that kind of silent self-awareness whenever it becomes possible. And with that, let me conclude. Thank you for your patient hearing. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Chidanandji. May I request Harshad sir to say something more on this? Harshad sir.
Yes, are you able to hear?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chidanandji. And you spoke in very impersonal way. And I feel that it is not the understanding of Krishnamurti teachings, but understanding ourselves, what is happening. Because Krishnaji is pointing out what is happening in the mind of the whole humanity, which has suffered, and as you say, this condition. So Krishnaji is pointing out certain things, and I know that very few people are interested in Krishnamurti's teachings because, first of all, very few people have the ability to be alone and look inward. But some people who have the ability to be alone and look inward and listen very, very carefully, then we feel that yes, what Krishnamurti says is true. And that was the impact on me when I took the first book and the questions he was asking. I found that yes, these are why I did not ask such questions. And so I became curious and it began to really change, affect my life. And I felt as if a new life started after reading Krishnamurti. And I read his books for about 5 years. And then I went to California after I had completed my PhD and I was working in Canada. And there I met one person, and he told me in Ojai that he made a mistake in reading Krishnamurti. I said, why are you saying? Then he said that now he cannot sleep at night because he knows that what Krishnamurti is saying is true, but he cannot live that way. So there is more conflict in his life between what is and what should be. So what he did, actually, he made certain concepts out of Krishnamurti's teachings, and he wanted to be like that. But he found that he did not have the ability to really go deep and look at what is, not what should be. So when we are able to look within ourselves, what is, not what should be, even our problems or even anything negative, but we don't react to it, we don't escape from it, and just watch very, very curiously, then there is a possibility of coming out. And I begin to be free about this religious and nationalistic conditioning. And after reading Krishnamurti's books, I lived with people of many different nationalities and religion, shared apartments with them. And I was not looking, before reading Krishnamurti, I was looking at them as if they are different people. And I'm an Indian and Hindu, but that thing went away. So there was the immediate impact of Krishnamurti. But then there are deeper problems of how this fear, anger, jealousy, loneliness, conflict in relationship, how it arises. And for that, one has to be extremely alert and alone initially to look at the beginning of a thought. And I was very much curious to go into the root of the thinking itself, and my mind is to stop. And so it was not a frightening thing to be silent, but for many people, when they look inward, and if the mind stops, they feel it is like a psychological death. And we generally, people like to escape from their own self, whatever is happening there. And our senses are working outside, and so it is very difficult to be inward. So that is one thing. And I know that many people got interested in Krishnamurti, but some of them were very much disturbed, and some of them had to go to a psychologist because there is so much happening and not able to come out from the problem. And I know I met one person in Chennai, and he said after reading Krishnamurti book, he became very violent and he had a family problems. And then he stopped reading Krishnamurti and started reading Raman Maharshi. Then for some time it was all right. But again, I think the problems, as long as we don't really see the root of it, then there will be problems will remain, and it will become even more difficult. After reading Krishnamurti, one can have more problems. That danger is also there. And even Krishnaji said that once the cupboard is open, you will not be able to close it. That means once you begin to look inward, then you will not be able to escape also. And even if you try to escape, that the conflict will remain. So it is extremely difficult first to be alone and then return and with curiosity and with energy and attention to look inward at the beginning of a thought. And as Krishnaji says, that the freedom is at the beginning. That means one needs to be silent and look inward and see how the thoughts are moving. And, and our whole training in school, college, university is to learn about the things which are outside, physics, chemistry, biology. And when a project is given to students about to make a project about Akbar or Ashoka, they go to the library, collect the information, and they put it everything properly with some little bit of their own thought, and they make a project. But that is very easy because it is an outside thing. But if a student, when he says it is very boring or it is very tiring or some other problem, then a student or a human being can ask the question, what is this boredom or why there is a conflict? And people who really want to go deeper within themselves, they will find that Krishnamurti's teachings are really very, very good, very simple, very direct. And then a person who is able to look at his own mind will say that what Krishnamurti says is very simple and very obvious. So that is what I feel, that once we are able to look at our own mind very, very clearly, we even don't need to read Krishnamurti or any other spiritual teacher, because the book of our own life opens up in front of us and we can read it every day as it is being written. So I believe that there have been many people who have understood Krishnamurti very well. They have expressed, they have written books, and they have gone very, very deep into. And some of them I have also met. And so, of course, Krishnaji can say that nobody understood. And I don't know how he can say it, because he cannot know the mind of other human beings. Maybe he can know the minds of people who were very close to him and whom he was seeing every day. And probably he felt that none of the people who were with him, very close to him physically, they had not changed. That is what he felt. But he cannot know about somebody who read his book and then he began to see himself, and then he had no need to go and read Krishnamurti again. So in the end, I will say that yes, it is very difficult to understand Krishnamurti because people are not able to sit quietly alone and turn the attention inward. And when they are able to see clearly, then it becomes very interesting, very enjoyable, and then the book of our own life is um, is open for us to read. So yes, and yes, one thing I have found, that people who understand Krishnamurti, some of them, they become very arrogant and then they begin to make fun of people who are interested in traditional philosophy. And so that indicates that this arrogance, that I have understood Krishnamurti and Krishnamurti is the only teacher who is telling the truth, that kind of arrogance also indicates that there is really no understanding, because even traditional teachings, they go very rote at the question like, who am I? That means when a person can go very deep in the traditional teachings, also there is a possibility of freedom. And many people have lived in India before Krishnamurti was born, and they had come to extraordinary understanding of their own mind. Like Kabir, 500 years ago, he was saying, and Buddha, 2500 years ago, they were saying mostly what Krishnamurti is saying, but Krishnamurti is a modern teacher and his language may attract more people who are educated, intellectual, and they may get interested. So I would say that there are many beautiful teachings, but most important thing is to understand our own mind, to have clarity, and if there is any problem like anger is coming, to see it when it is coming. So it requires an ongoing, effortless awareness of what is happening within us. And it is not about understanding Krishnamurti's teachings. It is understanding our own life. Okay, so I have finished. Thank you very much.
Prasad sir. Prasad sir, you can.
Sir.
Okay, sir.
Please unmute Prasad sir. Prasad sir, please unmute.
Yes. I hope I am audible, sir, now.
Yeah.
Yes, you are audible.
Audible as well as visible.
Sir, the value of Krishnaji's teachings, we don't have to bother, we don't have to discuss that. All of us find his teachings very valuable. Otherwise, we would not all be attached to his teachings for so many years like this. So, that goes without saying. And it also definitely has an impact on our lives. For example, it is not simply that we simply follow what he said. We think that for example, we think that God is the invention of the human brain. It is, at least for me, it is my personal conclusion. It's not simply because Krishnaji has said it. So, of course, he has made this statement first. But for me, it is a truth. And so, I cannot go back to the most of these traditional, most of the rituals in the prescribed by tradition. So, like that, so much of nonsense he has removed very easily. And to that extent, it is very useful. And I do not find any alternative, actually, which is preferable to Krishnaji. If I find something better, I would dump him immediately. There is no question about it. There is no personal loyalty like that. So we are here because we are convinced. We have seen into our own minds, into our own backgrounds, and we are convinced that the statements made by him are very true. So we are here. That is one aspect. And it also has a lot of beneficial effect on us because we don't have that nationalism or that religious chauvinism. We don't have any of those chauvinism. We have shed them all down. But sir, with Krishnaji, I find there is a problem. If I follow tradition, even if it is not true, maybe it is not true, but it gives a lot of comfort. With Krishnaji, I get no comfort, no consolation, no support. What is the support he has given us? You have to see your own mind. And my mind is empty. It is asking for support. It is asking, it says it can't bear this loneliness and things like that. So, tradition, even if it is not true, it gives a lot of support. That is why millions go there. Only handfuls are here. That is one thing. Then, for example, he says, die every moment. Live with death. All right. I will live with death. I remove all my attachments for my property, for my relations and things like that. But then nothing happens. The very fact, but for Krishnaji, something happened. So he can get rid of everything. For ordinary mortals like us, nothing happens and there is no support. So, sir, that is, of course, somebody may say, so long as you are expecting something, that itself is yourself. All that type of comments can be there. But that is why so many people, Harshadji himself has given examples of people who became psychic. They lost their moorings. That happens because here is, you are like in a river, swimming all alone without any aid, like that. So, that is my observation, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anand sir, please come forward.
Yes, sir. I mean,
For a very, very long time.
yes, sir.
Where were you?
Yes, yes, sir. What, sir?
Where were you?
I didn't get you. I'd gone abroad, sir. I was not here for some time, sir. Timings didn't suit me. I'd gone to US, so it was a completely different. It's around 11:30, 12 o'clock, so I couldn't.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, yes, sir. So, understanding what Krishnamurti is talking about is different from what most of us understanding. Okay. For me, when I say I understood earlier, I knew I was very clear about it. I know that. But K is talking about understanding. The moment there's an understanding, it is an act of intelligence. I don't go back on it. I say something, I do most of the time, something else. So there are so many contradictions. And it's not surprising, many Krishnamurti groups, I mean, they say what K is talking about, nobody understood is not true, because they say there are many people who have understood K. Now, what I understand out of this, within quotes understand, is when I say there are many people, that includes me also. I've seen every group of Krishnamurti in various cities, many places, there is one enlightened person. Or sometimes that person is even more enlightened than Krishnamurti. So it is not uncommon to hear that, there are many people who have read Krishnamurti, and again, I compare to the other teachers. I don't know what is the need for me to compare K to some other teachers. I don't know. I don't understand. The same other so-called saints, they go naked. I don't understand why they have to do that. What is the reason for that? So you see how they're caught in condition. They don't understand that tradition is nothing, it's conditioning. Yes, it gives me support. It gives me comfort. And most people want comfort. Many people, almost all people want support, dependence. Now look at my own contradictions. When I say I understand, the cruelty which is taking place out there on other living things, I say, I don't care about it. And I say, I understand. Look at my own contradictions. When again I say, what else? When his K is talking about understanding, it also, I'm putting within quotes again, he also means, understanding also means care. Understanding also means affection. Understanding also means love. Understanding also means freedom. So we need to, I'm again saying, I'm putting within quotes, I need to listen to it. Many times we come here and say, can you listen? Yes, can you hear? Yes, we are hearing, but I wonder how many of them are listening. So even when K is talking, K says they're not his teachings. Almost every time he says, I'm acting as a mirror. Again, how many of us, within quote, I'm saying, understand what he means by that? When he says, I'm acting as a mirror, he says, I'm not telling you anything, but I make him an authority. I say, this is what case is. I say, this is case. These are case teachings. And there are many people in Krishnamurti centers, they're not only arrogant, they're also violent. I've seen that. Because they get angry. You go to some other centers you go, who are the other teachers? They are very quiet, they're very humble to you and all that. Because there's a fear in them. Here, they read Krishnamurti and say they can speak whatever they want. So it is very essential to say, when Krishnamurti, we keep saying, I read Krishnamurti again, I make him an authority. He's saying, it's not me. But I keep saying Krishnamurti's teachings. Yes, before he died, he says nobody has understood. It's not, he doesn't have to know other people. He doesn't have to read the mind. What are we talking about? Again, it's a very difficult thing to say. He did not know. Again, I'm saying he has not understood people. They are saying that. He doesn't know. I say he is a wise man. He is an enlightened man. But at the same time, I say he doesn't know. Look at my own contradictions. And again, many groups throughout India and other places also, I suppose, I have not gone out of the country, I'm not in Krishnamurti groups. Most centers in India, those groups, I'm telling you, there is an enlightened person there. He says he's enlightened. That I have come across many of them. And it's not very surprising for me to hear that also. So now we are bringing Krishnamurti to, I'll say not, I am bringing Krishnamurti to my level. When I say I understand, and I continue to be violent, I can contradict myself, I cannot change simple habits of mine, and I say, I understand Krishnamurti. See the tragedy of it, sir. Thank you, sir. That's all.
May I request Chidanandji to interfere? Chidanandji, please say something, because you have to go at 7:15. Yes, I will request Chhabraji after you. I have Chhabraji in my mind, but after you.
If I got it right, Anandji was talking about different groups in different parts of the world. Some places, certain people have the arrogance to say, I am enlightened. Some other places, they are very humble. So all I can say is, yes, we see many varieties, different kinds of people, responding so differently to these teachings. Therefore, it is next to impossible to say the teachings have had a particular effect on all. It seems to be so divergent. And all of us do agree, like Prasad Garu said, the teachings are most marvelous, and that's how for years and years we stay with them. I guess even those who sort of stop attending any sessions or going to Krishnamurti centers, I guess they too once in a while pick up a book or something and study, because once they have appreciated the beauty of these teachings, they would not really walk away. They would not really go away from these. But for various reasons, their involvement may reduce. That's a different matter. To actually be involved in groups or taking part in some programs, in camps, etc., requires some kind of convenient atmosphere in their personal family side and so on. So I think what the speakers before me have shared goes very well with what I also had shared. It's different people have different biases and conditionings, but humble, open is the golden word. We should try to be open and humble. Thank you.
Mahatma ji.
Pradeep Verma, sir.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are
Yes.
audible.
Okay, okay. Thank God, because I am learning this machine today to count. Anyway, friends, Harshad Parekh ji posted a passage from a book by Ingram Smith, The Transparent Mind, A Journey with J. Krishnamurti. In that last sentence is relevant to today's topic. Krishnamurti must not be viewed as a teacher, but as a mirror in which we see ourselves as we are. Now, reflective consciousness in all of us, mind it, has a mirror aspect also. Everything viewed, listened to by us comes back to us. You see, Rohit Mehta, a close associate of J.K., said, his discourses may not be taken as teachings because teachings imply something static, some conclusion. J.K.'s approach is holistic and dynamic. You see, that the question is, should we see our ever-renewing mirror, our mirror, that is what we are, or someone else as a mirror? The entire responsibility is mine. What type of cup or receptacle I have? Is it clean enough or spacious enough to receive everything fresh? This is non-verbal, and within me, receiving and emptying has to be in quick succession, almost like simultaneously. If I am honest and sincere and passionate to understand life as a flow of life, simultaneously understanding myself, life reveals her secrets. Harshad ji was talking about seeing what is. Of course, it is very important, but what is leads ultimately to what should be. You see, seeing sorrow all around as what is demands some sort of change, which they talk about transformation, mutation. This demand for change is because of seeing what is in me, around me. This is all I have to say. Thank you very much, friends. Listening to me.
Shakti ji, please unmute and say. Shakti ji, please.
Yeah, my voice is reaching, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, very far.
Yeah. I just wish to say that what Krishnamurti has offered to us is a treasure. And the integrity is very important because in our heart of hearts, we know that where do we stand? And it's not a question of approximating the teachings, but it is true that these teachings, or we can say Krishnamurti's discourse, is when we study it, when I study it, I see that it demands a great deal of titiksha, or to be able to stay with what is, even if it is unpleasant. And there, the real thing begins. And if one knows that this, I'm not able to deal with this thing, and then still one goes on studying it, I think even then it is helpful to understand one's own problems of life, one's own shortcomings. Thank you, sir.
Prasad sir. Prasad sir, please unmute.
Yes, sir. Sir, I missed to mention one small point. That is why I have come again, but I won't take long time. Sir, when you live Krishnaji, that is his teachings, sometimes you find yourself in a difficult situation. Like, my room, let us say, is infested with a lot of mosquitoes. You have a mosquito racket in your hand. You kill the mosquito. Then immediately you think, am I being very violent? So you feel like a Jain, They won't kill even mosquitoes.
Oh.
You feel like that. Similarly, somebody owes you money. You want to collect it. But then you think, am I being too selfish? It is your money. He owes you. He doesn't deny it. But he finds it difficult to pay you. And without his payment, you have a problem with the income tax. Because for the income tax, he has paid you, or he owes you money, and so it is taxable for them. This gentleman doesn't pay you, and you have to pay the tax out of your pocket. So like this, sir, very subtle situations, a lot of difficulty is there. Everybody makes his own adjustment ultimately. I kill mosquitoes like anything. Krishnaji has not stopped me from killing mosquitoes. Somewhere he said you have to survive, and so you have to be a non-vegetarian partially. So like that, we make adjustments, but we face some quandary, psychological quandaries. Thank you, sir.
Chhabra ji, Mahatma ji, Chhabra ji, would you please unmute and say, or say me, I am not speaking. Chhabra ji, are you there? If not, then Dinesh Waghmare.
Jain sir, if Swamiji is there, would you request him to react to what I said?
He has to go. Just 5 minutes are left. In
2 minutes he can spare.
2 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh.
he
Yeah,
can.
yeah. I'll be glad to say that you have raised some day-to-day issues, whether to kill mosquitoes or not. And then you yourself said that the teachings do permit for survival, you may kill. Krishnaji has not touched upon specific issues of that kind. Therefore, all we can say is we should connect with the teachings, and then as the teachings inform our conscience, we must go ahead and do. He has not labeled particular situations. He said, you reflect on these teachings, think on these things, then you will know what to do.
Thank you, sir.
Dinesh Waghmare. Dinesh
Are you able
Waghmare.
to listen to me, sir?
We are able to listen to you.
Again, this is a very debatable issue, and this can be discussed among those only who have gone deep in JK teachings as well as the tradition. This is a very debatable issue. Anyway, my views are very clear. To understand JK, the prerequisites are well education, exploring and learning mind, sharp intellect, will for clarity and right thinking, ardent desire for truth, need for order, and importance of freedom, etc., etc. Whereas what is the mob which follows the leader, propaganda, and driven by the images. So this is what is. Now, how many people are having this sharp intellect and other things which I have mentioned? So the problem with the JK teaching are, unless the people are having those are well educated and all these things, they are not able to understand the teachings. Another thing, in tradition, we criticize tradition like anything, but how many people have gone and seen the effect of the mantra, effect of the symbolism? I don't think any in Krishnamurti circle, I have not come across any people who have gone deep and experienced the really the effect of mantra or the symbolism. There is a whole system of Reiki, which is touch healing system, and it works on the symbolism. How many people have gone and into deep in that and understand what the symbols do? Similarly, we ourselves are seeing that we are talking about the JK teachings, which are full of words. So have anybody gone and seen that what words can do? We ourselves are experiencing it in day to day, like what JK does, JK says. So one has to really go deep and see all these things. Number two, most of the people understand JK, whosoever I have come across, most of the people understand JK superficially and they use it as a trick. Say, I have understood that conditioning is like this. I say a lot of things about the conditioning, and I avoid all the rituals and all the traditions, and I criticize them like anything. So this is what the fact is. If the person is slightly more interested, then he may go into more deeper in the JK teachings and understand about the mind, structure of mind, etc. But how many people have really understood how to awaken that intelligence or to go to that level of really touching that dimension which is beyond all this? So in my view, it is very clear that many things which JK has talked, as far as I am concerned and my experience is concerned, many things are individual, which applies on JK only and not on others. So and people say that God is made by the person or the people, but how many people have gone into deep and seen that what is the effect of that? Why they have done this? What this idol or this thing, Murti Puja and all the other rituals do? I don't think many people have gone into deep and seen all these things. So this is a debatable subject, and one has to go into really deep, and then only we can discuss on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Kamlesh, please help Chhabra ji to unmute.
Chhabra ji is unmuted.
Please help him. Please help him.
Chhabra ji is
to
unmuted already.
Hello, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, I was not.
Listen, sir. Please.
Yeah. Uh, if I understand correctly, the topic is effect of the teachings, right?
Absolutely.
And I, you know, when I look back, for many years, fortunately or unfortunately, I was not even aware of the word teachings when they did whatever they did to me. I wasn't aware of the word, and for many, many years, it was only after coming to the institution or, to the school with the children, and then I heard this word. So, and I found Mary Lupton's take on it very interesting, very simple, straightforward. That I may have said it earlier also, maybe at some occasion. And some people wanted to know about the teachings. And she thinking that it's so vast and people want it in a nutshell very quickly, what it is, what the teachings are. And so she would get irritated and say, well, the teachings are what you are. And I think this is very crisp and, to my mind, very meaningful. Teachings are what you are. They are just stating facts. And are we able to listen to those facts, look at those facts? Or we indulge in analysis, indulge in intellectual juggling, trying to understand, struggling to understand, or we listen to it, it comes to us as he said, in a metaphorical way, that there's wilderness and there's in a way the area of darkness, and you suddenly hear the voice in wilderness, and that voice says, in this desert there is water. So obviously, if in that state of, if one is really in a state of crisis, one hears a voice that one has never heard, that is so different, so new, so fresh, something everybody seems shy of, and everybody seems to be talking in that solace, comfort. And if one is really looking for what is really true, so that there's no effort, there's no gap between me and that, and it goes in, then does whatever it does. At the moment you start measuring it, and that's what the mind probably does, then one has stopped listening, it seems. Because you come back in the way you are standing in the doorway. You want something to come in, the fresh air to come in, but you know, not ready to keep the door open. So this sense of, the teachings are what you are. What are the implications? Either you're able to face them, face the facts, look at them, or you run away. So that is the what is one's actuality? That one has to find out for oneself. All one is likes to indulge in, whether others have understood, many people have understood or not understood. Is that one's interest? You know, if I'm hungry, do I, you know, see that, whether they are able to satisfy their hunger, whether they have got food, you know, or if you're thirsty, you look for water, or you indulge in whether others are also thirsty, whether others are also getting water. So it's at one level, in a straightforward way, when we see certain facts, what do we do? That only we can see that for ourselves. If we run away, we run away. Can I see that I'm running away? And what does it do? What does it do to me? If I'm able to, like someone was saying, we see contradiction, we see conflicts. So is one able to face them? So this intimacy with fact, intimacy with reality, it's intimacy with one's own actuality. Either it is there or it is not there. If it is there, what it does to you, and if it is not there, then is one able to admit to oneself it is not there, that you don't understand? Do you have to pretend that you understand when you don't understand? So what happens really? I think that intimacy with the actuality is what has its own function, And I don't know how far any person really plays a role. The teacher, maybe intellectual, one may say, okay, teacher, he has said teacher and teachings are one and all. These are all, I don't know whether, what does that tell me? I see if somebody is telling something, either it is true or it is not true. So if that quality of listening will tell me, if it is true, it works. It works. If one is able to listen to it, and if it is true, it works. But if you want to first establish whether it is true or not and turn it into an idea, I've lost it. It's gone. So I think life is very, I have a feeling that there is dynamism in life. And the thought is not dynamic. I may be wrong, but I'm just stating it as ad hoc. This is these are words that come to me now. But thought is always jerky. It always moves. It gives a sense of being static. It may create an illusion of being very, very creative, very dynamic, very new thought and all. But it seems its process is very jerky. And whereas there is a flow in life, and senses seem to be more capable of meeting life. And there is action there. Senses are capable of meeting and acting, whereas thought seems to take one back into, either expressing, okay, that's one function, or trying to turn something into an idea, any situation into an idea, and reflect on it and, find logic, reason in it, and draw a conclusion. But my, in fact, if I look back, my first difficulty with whatever I read was that there was no conclusion possible. That text was not lending itself to any conclusion. So that was the first difficulty. We are so used to drawing conclusion. And there is something that you read which has its own rationality, its logic, its flow, its the stream of affection in it, but you can't draw any conclusion. You can't grab it. You can't grasp it. You can't hold onto it. It's not giving you something to hold. And there's this giving you probably unconsciously that sense of flow. I don't know. It's a shock. It's a shock to the system which is used to drawing conclusion, and here you can't draw conclusion. And what does that do? If one is so used to drawing conclusion, and some voice says something, and you are not able to draw conclusion, though it is true, it rings true to the core of your heart, and yet you are not able to hold on to something. What does it do to you? Doesn't it break the pattern? It does something to you. And then it probably, there is a ordinary momentum of that intellectual process, drawing conclusions, and also there's this something different has come and entered your life, which breaks it. And they seem to be, I had a sense of they're sorting it out. I don't think I have any function there. Very strange sense of one's not having any function there. They're sorting it out. The two momentums are sorting it out. I don't know whether I'm making sense. Maybe just leave it as poetry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With these words, we end the meeting. Kamlesh, please end the meeting. Thank you very much, Chhabra ji. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.